Greetings. We're back again. Greetings and salutations, not hallucinations, but it may be. But anyway, we're back again and want to talk more about my childhood, growing up times, things that I remember. Not about things I don't remember, okay? To start off with, I want to talk about just some of the vacation trips that we took. Grew up born in Paris, Texas, but moved to Freeport when I was about 5 years old. Freeport's below Galveston. It's about 5 miles from the Gulf of Mexico. And so we got sea breezes in and out, day and night. It was always warm down there, but with the breezes, the sea breezes always helped. And 5 miles from the Gulf of Mexico, we spent a lot of summertime out there. Of course, with the sea anemones, the cabbage heads, and all these types of things stinging you, and I got stung a number of times, come to think of it. I remember running into the long tentacles of a Portuguese man of war. They had this balloon type thing up on the top and long tentacles underneath. And the undercurrent would carry those tentacles all different directions. The fall of the year, they're more prevalent, I think. And boy, I ran one time and got across my leg. I started running back and the tentacles wrapped around me. And went run out, stringing out the water, screaming and hollering in pain because it was just pumping the poison into me and burning like everything. And I got in, they had to get some paper towels or newspaper or something wet to get the stingers and unwrap them from it, because if they grab them, it stings them. And we always carried, I forgot, what was ammonia or something like that in the car under the car seat, just in case somebody gets stung, it would counteract the poison. And so I'm sure they poured that all over me. We went rushing back into town. Everybody had to pack up very quickly because we always take a lunch out there and picnic and everything. Boy, that was time to get home. So it was an interesting time anyway for me, and I guess for everybody a little bit different.
Do you want to tell about the cooler that Papa kind of invented to take to the beach?
Yeah.
Is it like concrete?
It was oxychloride cement.
Okay.
They didn't have these styrofoam coolers then.
Yeah.
And my dad was a Presbyterian minister, but he liked to figure around things, figure out how to do things. He came up with air-conditioned shoes because he had real sweaty feet, and I inherited that. And he came up with the air-conditioned shoe. It had a little bitty knob up on top and had a little vent and everything. It had ducts and everything would go around, and as you walk, the air would go through and it would help cool your foot. But with the knob up on top, it wasn't too attractive, so the shoe companies didn't pick up his idea. But that was one of the things. Another thing was the Dick's box. He named it after my older brother, Richard, or his nickname was Dick, D-I-C-K. And he named it after him, but he called it the Dick's box, D-I-X, I believe, hyphen B-O-X. And he made it out of oxychloride cement because that was pretty temperature protective. And you could put things in it, and it was thick. But the bad thing about it, it was heavy, but it was a good cooler, and it worked.
No, to get to the beach.
To get to the beach, yeah, because that's where we live. That's where people down there live. But that didn't go real well with the companies because it weighed so much.
Yeah.
But it was good and worked. He had some good ideas, not always practical or appealing to the eye. This would have been okay, but then they came out with styrofoam, and that just squashed that. I mean, lightweight and keep things cool. But anyway, grew up at Freeport, like I said, 5 miles from the Gulf of Mexico, and we would spend a lot of it's warm. I mean, the winter it might get down to 80 degrees, I think it maybe got down to freezing a couple of times in the 10 years that we lived there, but it's usually pretty warm. In the summers, we would go to Surfside Beach, though. There's Texas, whichever way it is, and there's Galveston right on the coast, and then southwest from there, there's Galveston Bay, and then Freeport. So we were pretty close to Galveston, but to get there, you had to drive all around the bay and everything, so it took a good while. But we'd go out to the beach, spend a lot of time during the summers. We'd take picnics and eat out there and play and all that, and get stung by the Portuguese man of war and all that. But we had a really good time out there. Spent a lot of time in the summers doing that. It was very, very special in growing up. Okay, another thing on vacations, like I was saying, we grew up at Freeport, down on the coast. we didn't have air conditioning in the car. And we would drive all the way in the summer, the hot summer, through Texas up into Arkansas. And we had an old, I guess 1948 Plymouth or something like that. And we ended up renting an air conditioner one of the first times. Well, it was a tube like this, and you would put it in your window and roll the window up where it would stay on there, and then you would stop and put ice in there. And you drive along, the air would flow through that over the ice and cool the air, and they would blow it into the car. And that was our first air conditioner in our car. And it was really, really a big deal, really helped.
Yeah.
Of course, the people in the back got more of the cool air than the people in the front, because it was, you know, like the front window, but it was blowing on back there, but it eventually would kind of cool off there. There was a problem with it as far as the people in the back seat. People in front were a little bit hotter. There was a little bit of problem with people in the back seat, where of course I was. As you're driving along, as the wind would blow through and melt the ice, well, I wore glasses. And as that water melted and the wind blowing through, you would get drops of water in your face and on your glasses. I mean, it was nice, it helped cool, but it was very irritating at the same time. But it was an interesting thing that happened anyway, but it was better than not having the air conditioning.
Yeah, for sure.
Later on, we actually got a car that had air conditioning, real air conditioning when it came out.
When did you get glasses? Do you remember how old you were? Like, you had when you were a
I
kid?
think it was in junior high.
Okay.
7th, 8th, 9th grade, I don't remember. But I remember I had tried to sit close to the front, not because I wanted to be seen or anything by the teacher, or rather be in the back, but to be able to see the blackboard. I had to get fairly close. I didn't know people couldn't see, but I knew that I had to get close, never even thought that much about it. And we had a spelling test in one of my classes, I guess English class or something. And afterwards, the teacher brought me up and said, "John," said, I'm just curious. I had the words written on the board that you were to write down to define, and you misspelled every word but got every definition right.
Oh my goodness.
And I had the words on the board. Do you need glasses?
Oh.
Oh no. So I went to the doctor, and sure enough, I needed glasses.
Imagine that.
And that might have helped me some in sports too, I guess.
That is true.
I had never thought about that. I don't know how long my eyes had been what they were.
Wow, interesting.
Made it kind of hard playing center field too, you know.
Yeah.
Shortstop was a bit better. But anyway, I did end up getting glasses, and it was somewhere junior high years.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
7th, 8th, or 9th grade, somewhere around there. But that was an interesting thing anyway, and that's when I started. And I have some bumps type things on my eyes, so I never could really wear contacts. That would have really been nice.
Yeah.
And it started off with the first glasses that were very dark rimmed all around like that.
And heavy, I'm sure.
Heavy, we were heavy, yeah. And they finally got to these lighter weight ones, and it's just mainly just a little thin metal frame and just the glass there, which really helps. Anyway, that's my experience with the glasses.
Okay, so on your vacations in the car, like what would y'all do?
Let me think. Let's see, there's the alphabet game. I'm trying to remember how it was played.
Well, I know y'all would sing.
We sang songs. We played the alphabet game too. We'd sing songs. Had a good time. My sister could play the piano, just like this. She grew up with that.
Betsy played.
And Betsy played the piano.
Richard, I guess.
Richard plays the piano. He didn't take the lessons as much as Margaret did, but he liked to sit down and modulate and work out the chords himself. He really loved music. In fact, he ended up majoring in music, getting masters in music. But it was choral music. And Margaret was more the instrumental type thing with the piano. She played the piano at church, and she played the organ at church, and all these different levels and all the different things, keys that you do to make different flute sounds and all that kind of stuff. She could do it all. So she played the organ and piano, and we had an upright piano to start off with. This huge thing, weighed most of 4,000 pounds, probably. The thing stood up this high, about that wide, and the keyboard is stuck out there like that. And then we ended up somehow getting a grand piano on sale, and we were able to get that type of piano after we'd had the upright one for so long. And Margaret and Richard both loved it. I tried it, and they tried to teach me, and I could. Here we go up a road to a birthday party.
Oh my gosh,
And I played
yes.
Raining on the Roof. Bum 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 bum. And that was about the extent of my piano.
Chopsticks.
Chopsticks, I could do
Yeah.
chopsticks. Well, they played the other part, yeah.
Did y'all play Heart and Soul, or was that us when we were?
That was it, y'all.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so Margaret was a good music person. Richard was a good music person. He ended up teaching, choral. I loved music. I never was good at any of it. I did sing in the junior high choir and sang in the Bridgeport a cappella choir, and loved that. And we went on tours to Colorado and all during the summer, in different places, different years, and loved it. Absolutely. The male section of the choir did.
Mm-hmm.
It was called the male chorus.
Okay.
And we would travel and sing in churches and schools and community events and all that. It was just really, really fun. 40 people or so. The choir had 80 to 100 people in it. The male section would go on the trips and camp out and stay at different places. It was just a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. Then moved my senior year, moved from Bradsport High School, this almost 100-person choir, and went up there. And so I went to get in the choir at Bryan Adams High School. It was about the same size as Bradsport High School. And we got there, and a lady was our music director. I said, well, we need a little bit of change. But we did nothing challenging. It was all little bitty ditty songs. Just kind of, I don't know, it was very, very disappointing. I stayed in, I guess, a couple of years. It was nothing compared to the Bradsport choir at all. Didn't do anything challenging. But I mean, at Freeport, we sang the Messiah and all this, at Christmas, and just did all types of things.
I'm glad you had that experience.
Yeah. The choir, the Bradsport choir had fun songs, and it had serious songs, it had religious songs, and all that. It was just really neat, really special. But anyway, that was the music choir experience.
And y'all got to kind of sing in the car?
Oh yeah, we would sing rounds in the car, and just had more fun and laughed and sang all different types of songs. Anything we'd learned before at camp or at church or wherever. And we were trying to harmonize. I would try to. Richard could harmonize. He could harmonize with anybody. And Mark could. And Mother liked to sing. And Daddy's voice wasn't that great. My voice wasn't that great. But we still had so much fun doing that. We would just laugh and laugh and laugh. I had a really fun time growing up, especially on vacation. We were all together at one time, laughing. Dad had a good sense of humor. Mother had a good sense of humor. Richard and Margaret did. And we just laughed till we hurt sometimes. In fact, there were times we'd get to laughing so much, Mother and Margaret said, "We gotta pull over quick, where's the restroom?" We have to go zipping in a little gas station or something somewhere. And then we'd all, of course, make a trip, but then we were forced to sometimes like that. But it was a very, very good time, very fun time growing up. I just love my family.
You had a very
Special. But we lived in Freeport, moved there from Paris, where I was born. Paris, Texas. Better than Paris, France. But anyway, we moved from there when I was about 5 years old, moved down to Freeport, and lived there through the 10th grade. So I pretty much grew up there in Freeport Junior High. 9th grade was in the junior high, even though your grades counted on the high school. And the high school was 10th, 11th, and 12th. And it had not just Freeport in it, but it had Velasco, a little town across the Brazos River from us, and Lake Jackson and Clute and some other towns. And other than spending our time at the beach in the summers, we would go up to Tyler, Texas, and visit my dad's side of the family. He was one of 7 children. There were a bunch of boys and like 2 girls, and they all lived around the Tyler area. One was a pharmacist, one was a real estate agent. They're just all different types of things. And another one was a minister. My dad was a minister, and my aunts, one of them was married to a math teacher, and it was a fun time to go up there. I went to visit. My grandparents were there, and we would spend summertime up there, and a lot of times, and then we would end up going from there to Arkansas, to my mother's side of the family, and visit them. And mother was one of 3 children, and it was a fun time up there. Her parents lived in Glenwood, Arkansas, and we'd go visit them for a little bit, then go and visit my cousins. Of course, we had more fun with my cousins. There was more things to do there, and they were closer to my age than my mother's parents. But anyway, my mother's lived in Glenwood, a small town, and just about 150 feet or so from the house was a creek that went by. And I would go down to the creek a lot of times and throw rocks at the fish or try and catch fish or see what kind of frogs or whatever was crawling around. It was just a fun time, something different to do, because we didn't have a creek down where I had lived. And they had an old wire fence out front. I mean, it had rusted probably 50 years earlier, and had the wire like this, and it had rods like this, and it had the gate at the front, and the post came up and had knobs on it like that. And I was a young kid, so I would get up there and get the knob and wrap string around or something, and pretend like I'm riding a horse, and sit on the fence and with that knob up there, and had a good time doing that, swinging back and forth on the gate. And they had a swing, family swing, wide one on the front porch, and as a family, a lot of times, or several kids could sit in that and swing. But my grandmother's name was A.C. Greenlee before she got married. A.C., A-C-I-E, A.C. Greenlee. So we called her Mama A.C. instead of Grandma. And my grandfather's name, her husband, was Walter Osgood Atkins. They got married, so she became A.C. Atkins. Well, since she was Mama A.C., instead of calling him Granddad or Grandpa, we called him Papa Ducey. So it was Mama A.C. and Papa Ducey. That was their names growing up. And we always had a good time being there and being with them and visiting. Then we'd go up to visit my cousins up in Mount Ida, 30-something miles away and more in the mountains, the Ozark Mountains. There was Uncle Clyde and Aunt Juanita, who was my mother's sister. And they had 3 kids. There was John Allen, that was the oldest. And then Linda was next in age, and then Gary was the youngest. Well, Linda was like a year difference from my sister. Gary was like a year or 2 difference, or 3 from my brother. So they ran around together. Well, that left the other one for me to run around with. Well, I was the youngest in my family, and he was the oldest in his family of the kids. So here's this little kid gets to run around with the big guy, but boy, that was so much fun because I got to do things that I wouldn't have gotten to do otherwise. He'd take me horseback riding. We'd take off. They had a farm outside of town, and they had a store in town, like a Goodyear type store. It had everything in it, from candy to tires to clothes to everything, blue jeans, everything. Jewelry. It was kind of a general store, really. But anyway, and I go down there and spend time having fun there. And but then I would run around with John Allen. There was John Allen, Linda, and Gary were the 3 kids. And John Allen would take me horseback riding and out at the farm, that farm. And we'd go out there and just had the best time riding horses, because we didn't have horses down in Freeport. And it was in the Ozark Mountains, and we'd take off up the mountain. We'd leave the horses at the bottom and go back up the mountain and just going through exploring everything. It was just really, really fun. The school was right across the street from them also, and we could go over there, and John Allen and I and Richard and Gary even too might even I don't know, Margaret and Linda might even too. We would go over there and shoot basketballs and things in the gym and just had a good time. Those are very, very pleasant memories growing up. We just loved to go up there and visit with cousins. I got to do things that big kids could do. And he took me, taught me how to shoot a rifle and everything else. So, wasn't especially good at it, but I enjoyed learning and doing it. I ended up getting a 22 for my birthday eventually. Never got a shotgun or anything like that. Mother was against it. I had a BB gun first, and then got a 22. That was upgrade, single shot. But anyway, and I had a really, really good time up there. We always did. Okay, something else that our family enjoyed growing up was playing card games, playing dominoes. The dominoes, played regular dominoes, but the main thing was we would play 42. It was a game that would have 4 people, it'd be 2 teams, 2 players each. And when we were playing on vacations, we might have several tables going at one time. The winners might advance to the other table or losers together or whatever. But anyway, we always had a good time on vacation. Plus we played that at home too. It wasn't just on vacation. Also another thing, that was for 4 people. I learned how to play Shoot the Moon. That's a 2-person domino game, and that was fun. But we enjoyed the 4 people more. Also growing up, we learned how to play cards. My dad's aunt, Aunt Teddy, taught us how to play canasta. I believe she was the one that taught us, and she was a big card player. And boy, we really got into that, and the family all enjoyed that. Everybody in the family. And when she came and lived with us for a good length of time. She was the one that never got married. All the other children, my aunts and uncles, or my dad's side, they all got married, but his aunt, Teddy, didn't. And she would come and live with us for a while, live with different people for a while. She traveled all over, and we just loved having her there because she taught us the different card games. And it was just a whole lot of fun. Another thing also growing up, I love sports. I was never really good at them, but I loved them. And I played Little League baseball. I guess all through Little League, that's 8th grade through 12th, through 12 years old.
8 years old through 12.
8 years old
Yeah.
through 12 years old, yeah. I started at 8th grade, but
Yeah.
8 years old through 12th grade, that was Little League. I did play like a year of junior teenage also when I got to 13 years old. I played mainly shortstop and center field. I didn't have a real strong arm, but I could get from shortstop to first base and easier to second base or third base. In center field, throwing it all the way home was a tough deal. I would try, and sometimes I could do it, but a lot of times there was a cutoff man that would, second baseman or somebody would grab it if it was a long throw. He'd grab it and wheel around and throw it on the end. But there was even one game that in Little League that our 3 or 4 pitchers were all out. They were sick or on vacation or something, and I was on the Red Sox. And we were actually the best team in the league, and we won the league at least 3 or maybe all 4 years.
That's
I don't
impressive.
know that I was in it. So I was on a good team. But all of our pitchers were sick or gone on vacation or something one time, and everybody else had to play their positions because they were good at them. So they said, "Hey, you gonna pitch?" I said, "No," but they needed somebody to pitch, so I did, and I could get over the plate most of the time. But it was a scary deal for me when I did it.
But you're cute.
I guess so, but I loved it and did actually pitch that one game.
That's cool.
I don't know whether he won or lost it.
Yeah.
I have selective memory probably. But anyway, I did get to pitch one game. I also played on the school 7th grade football team. Again, not very good, but I loved it. And then the 8th, but I was very small. I was under 5 feet tall, playing with guys that were 5'10", 5'11", and just
Not quite fair.
And I wasn't very heavy either.
Yeah.
4'9", 4'10", 4'11", and 80 pounds, or I don't know what it was. I don't know. It wasn't very much though, probably less. But anyway, that was in the 7th grade. In the 8th and 9th grade, I played basketball, and I guess I was on the B team. I don't know if I ever made the A team, but I loved playing anyway. And it was a lot of fun. But again, there were a lot of bigger players. Then we moved, then went to Freeport Junior High. Like I said, 9th grade was in the junior high, but the grades came on high school. And then we went to Bradsport High School the next year, and that had a number of towns that went in there. Velasco and Clute and Lake Jackson and Freeport all went to the one high school. So it was a big school. It was like a 4A school, which was big at that time. While I was in high school, right before I went into the Army, I was in Dallas my last 2 years, junior, senior years, and I had a real good friend named Jimmy Mize. And he was very much into electronics and radio. He was a ham radio operator. And he got me interested in it. And I ended up learning Morse code, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, learned how to take and send it and everything. Got me really interested. He had this wall just full of transmitter, wall of receiver and everything. And that got me interested. And we already had 2 kids that had gone on to college. My brother had gone, and my sister had gone, and we didn't have any money on a preacher's salary. And so, right out of high school, to save money, I decided, well, I'm going to go into the Army. I'd had a cousin's husband that had gone a particular route, and it sounded good to me, where you have an 8-year obligation. That sounds like a lot, but it was just 6 months active duty. You go into basic training, and then you go through some, we're out running in the sand and the dirt, and carrying the backpack, 60, 80 pound backpack or whatever, out in California on the coast, and a lot of sand. Running through the sand, it was tough with a 60 or 80 pound pack on your back, and M1, which weighed a lot more. M14s they came out with later, a little bit lighter and everything. But M1 was pretty big. And so when I went to the Army, they said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Oh, I don't want to run around with a rifle all my life." And they said, "Well, I'll tell you what are your interests?" I said, "Well, recent interest in ham radio operating, and learned Morse code and all." And they said, "Well, how about radio teletype?" I said, "Well, that sounds interesting." He said, "You could use, because we have to send messages from the field back to headquarters so that we know what's going on elsewhere and what we need to do and all, and you would be in charge of that. And you might have to do some Morse code, or you may be able to type out some things and send them out through teletype." I said, "Well, that sounds fun. I might get to use some stuff that I've done before." And I said, "Well, how would I go about doing this? Where would I be?" They said, "Well, you'd be in this armed type vehicle in the back of like a 3/4 ton truck." I said, "Armed? Plated with metal and stuff around it?" They said, yeah. I said,
"Sounds good."
"That sounds good to me, with all the bullets flying around, having an armed thing on the back of a truck where we get out of there in a hurry." So I said, "Oh, well, I'm through thinking about it." So I became a radio teletype operator and became a radio teletype team chief. And
what is the teletype machine like?
Well, it was like a wall and it had a typewriter and everything. I could type
Oh,
stuff
it's a
into
typewriter. So
Yeah.
how would you do the Morse code?
Well, it had a
little arm type
thing with a little key on it,
Okay.
dotted.
Well, that's interesting that you could do the Morse code or like type whole messages.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, there might be situations where one is needed and the other isn't.
Okay.
I may be sending something to somebody in the field or
Mhm.
receiving something from them, and they don't have a teletype thing.
Yeah. That's
So
true.
they send to me and I send the message out.
Okay.
So, but some things I learned in school actually
Yeah.
used and helped get me through the Army. Out in California on the coast and a lot of sand, we would run around there, and I was in 6 months active duty, and then went into active reserve where I could go out and get a job and work or whatever, and for 3.5 years. And I would go to meetings once a month, and then summer camp for a couple of weeks each summer. and I did that for 3.5 years. And then I had 4 years standby reserve. Well, I didn't go to meetings or anything, but they could call me up because I was still in the Army. So it was an 8-year obligation. But anyway, I learned a lot, and learned a lot of discipline that way. And I learned how to polish boots and how to get them to spit shined in my dress shoes also. But it was an interesting time and a fun time.